But it's good. I've gotten to see the world. And the world is awesome.
Yeah, so less than about 6 months ago you were here. So we made some predictions. We had a good time. You wouldn't let me force you to do a 6-month prediction because you're smarter than that. But what's changed in the last 6 months in all your travels?
Well, the world just keeps changing. I think the world's getting closer together. Okay, hang on.
You can take
the world's getting closer together. I think we're seeing a very interesting, tumultuous time because because of Bitcoin decentralizing the world in currency. Other things are getting decentralized too, and that is creating a division between the people who want the world to stay the way it is, tribal and fiefdoms and borders and all that, and the people who are moving for this new world that's decentralized and open. And like China is putting up bigger and bigger barriers around their country, and making it so they said Bitcoin was illegal there. And then Japan said, looking at that as a major opportunity, said Bitcoin's our national currency, or one of them. And so all those entrepreneurs are moving to Japan because they know that that's going to be a friendlier environment for the decentralized world. And so I'm thinking that this is potentially one of the greatest times in the history of the world. I think humanity is going to move to another level, and we're seeing countries in the Middle East starting to open up. We're seeing the European countries starting to realize that they've got to compete. And it's interesting because Europe went from being kind of the kings of the world to the wine and cheese generation, and now they're really there are a bunch of interesting entrepreneurs there, and I'm very excited about what's happening there. And the U.S. still is a great place to be investing. It's very dynamic, and I know that down there in L.A. is one of the hot spots in the entire world for entrepreneur activity, and a lot of it's because of you.
I don't know about that. I appreciate the kind words. I think it's more because of you than because of me, that's for sure. You've spent a lot of time out here. No, I mean, even when we first met was at Amplify, and you were a big proponent of that, and it's guys like that a few years ago, sort of after the MySpace craziness in LA, bringing a ton of talent. So I'll attribute much more of it to that than me, that's for sure. You also, I wanted to hit, you were just recently also in South America, and I would love to hear about South America and how that feels from an entrepreneurial environment, and especially, of course, Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain.
A lot of, it's interesting, different countries in South America are different. And I'll give you this in a couple of different ways. I went to Chile and Argentina. Chile is very exciting and very dynamic. The Sebastian Piñera, who's the president, I met with him and I congratulated him because he's got free markets running beautifully. His Santiago was kind of a dump 20 years ago when I was there, and now it's absolutely a sparkling city. Everybody seems to be working. Everybody is moving, dynamic. It's exciting. They don't have any homeless. I mean, the whole thing seems amazing. And I credit that to him. He has opened the markets, freed people to innovate, and some great things are happening there. He's getting a lot of immigration because of Startup Chile and all the things that he's done. So when I went and met with him, he asked me, well, what can we do to make, Philly a better place or whatever. And I said, just keep doing what you're doing. And then I went to Argentina, and Argentina has some unbelievably brilliant scientific minds that are working on some extraordinary entrepreneurial activities. And I went in and met with the president of Argentina, Macri, and he is a wonderful guy and doing as much as he can, I believe, but I had a few ideas for him. Argentina has this problem in that the Argentinian peso just drops 30% a year like clockwork. And it had just dropped the day I was there significantly. And so what I did was I said, okay, last time I was here, I met with him 2 years ago. I said, last time I was here, I told you all about Bitcoin. And he said, yeah, I vaguely remember that. And then I said, okay, so Bitcoin during the last 2 years has gone from 10,000. By the way, I was there when it hit 10,000 for the first time. And I said, it's gone from 10,000 down to about 4,000. Now, of course, it's up to about 5,200. And he said, yeah. And then I said, and the Argentinian peso during that same time has dropped from 7.5 cents to 2.5 cents. And I said, so let's make a bet. We'll bet that if I win the bet, no, if you win the bet, I owe you a Bitcoin and I will double my investment in Argentina. And he goes, okay, that sounds good. And I said, and okay, but if I win the bet, you owe me the equivalent in pesos, and I will, and you have to make Bitcoin a national currency. And he looks at me like, oh God, who is this crazy American coming and telling me what I'm doing? And then I said, the way Japan did it. And all of a sudden he went, what? And I said, yeah, call the president of Japan and figure this out. Figure out how to do it here. And he said, we will do the, and he said, okay, we're going to do that here. And he went and got his minister to go check with the minister in Japan to figure out how it's all done. And he didn't shake on the deal, but I did end up shaking his hand at the end of the meeting. So I think that's close enough to the deal.
I love it. Yeah, that's close enough for sure. I think that, you have a meeting, you discuss things, you agree, you shook hands at the end. I think that's a deal, right? I mean, come on. Somewhere in between saying it and then the shaking hands, you didn't say no, right?
Well, I'm not going to hold him to it, but I think we should. I mean, then I told him, look, I said, look, the internet here is horrible. I'm in one of your best hotels, and the internet doesn't work at all. It's just horrible. And then I said, and I went to a restaurant, internet didn't work there either very well. I said, what you should do is forget about all your infrastructure spending, take that money and do 5G with it. And then you can tell entrepreneurs that you've got the most advanced communication system and the most advanced currency. And all the entrepreneurs are going to flock to your country. But as it is, you're losing them. And as I know, because we funded a couple from Argentina and they moved up to the Silicon Valley. And he took it all under advisement.
That would be amazing.
I hope they voted him back in November.
He sounds like he's open, and one of the themes, actually, before I ask this question, if anybody does want to ask Tim a question, we'll try to get a few in, and we'll try to kind of make the second half of this like an AMA kind of thing, because it'll be more fun. And Tim, you don't get to see me. I'm sitting up on stage by myself, like it's just weird. So they all get to see you on the screen, so hopefully they're looking at you and not me sitting here. It's fun. But yeah, if you want to ask questions, there's a microphone right over here. But Tim, so this actually goes a common theme. So we did Security Token Summit yesterday, and we've been talking about this kind of stuff a lot. And what's funny is I know you have to have some good stories about this. So one of the people I recently talked to was talking about how, people are not, are very, very skeptical to look at Bitcoin and blockchain because they hear, people that don't understand it talking about it being a scam and all these things. But then once they finally get somebody to go down the rabbit hole and actually research, you have like a 99% rate of people becoming obsessed with it and becoming, full, all bought in. What's been a good story of someone you've convinced finally that's dived in, or maybe you were surprised that they were so excited by it?
Oh, I think the best story is Jamie Dimon, because he's the first one who said it was a scam, and he's the president of JP Morgan. And they said it was a scam, and then they started to get nervous because they saw that it was very important currency for a lot of people. And then they said, well, nobody can use a JP Morgan credit card to buy Bitcoin. And of course that totally backfired. And then he said, we're going to create our own token. And so it was, he went from being a disbeliever to a total believer. And I never actually talked to him directly, but boy, I'm sure I had an effect. And he, he was doing all the things that you do when you discover you have cancer. It's like denial and going through whatever, depression and whatever else. And then he finally resolved to accept it. And the acceptance was in deciding to do a token of his own. But he still doesn't get it, because he's got his token is centralized on a centralized currency. So it's like, why would you do that? Decentralized currency is so much more valuable to people. If you're in Sudan and you're trying to get, and you're a refugee, you go from Sudan to Greece, and you're now a refugee. If you have Sudanese money, it's worthless in Greece. But if you have Bitcoin, you just go right across the border, you start your life again, everything's good. Same thing is the case if you're stuck with whatever currency the JP Morgan guys tie their token to. They're going to tie it to some political currency, and they're going to get the same thing. And it's just going to even be more centralized because JP Morgan has a hand in it, as does the government, some government, whether it's the U.S. government or some other. I think we're all better off using a decentralized token, and that Bitcoin, looks like it's the one that's going to be the big survivor.
Yeah, I think.